Assalamualaikum and a very merry day I bid to all the viewers, the students, the candidates of Muet. You are watching POT, Perlis Online Teaching, a commitment and effort by SSTP, Perlis Education Department. Such an honorable opportunity is given for me to share with you some information, some input for your Muet reading this morning. A very big applaud, kudos for SSTPN, Perlis Education Department, for having this program. Okay, without further delay, without much ado, let's get started with our session today, which is Muet reading. Be with me, stay with me, Madam NORAZILAWATI RAZAK, for some input, some information that we will together explore, revise, maybe reinforce your reading skill, especially for incoming reading assessment. Okay, let's get started with our lesson or our session of Muet reading for today. So everyone knows that it is a paper of Muet with the code of 800/3. Okay, so this is some here are some or few of the quotation about reading. How reading is actually very important for us, here for our mind. And for this level of reading, for Muet reading, it's like you need a lot of practices, in order to have such skill, in order to face or to read the passages, to understand the passages well. So reading is like actually an exercise for your mind, and reading is also like eating. So it should be done with some reflection. Yes, in this quotation is mentioned that reading without reflecting is like eating without digesting. Reading is to the mind what exercise to the body, right? Okay, so for this paper you are given 90 minutes to answer all the 45 questions, and then it is about 2 minutes for each questions. Make sure you know how to manage your time well, to read and then to identify the answer for all the 45 questions. So 2 minutes for each question. Okay, there are 6 passages or text in your reading paper, right? So reading actually gives you the most percentage or the most weighting, which is 40%, and the score is the highest, of course, with 120 score out of 300. So this is only the review, some revision of the format in case you are not that aware of the format. Okay, now let us move on to the composition of the reading paper, the content of the paper itself. There are actually 6 tags or passages. We start with first text. So this text is the combination of the linear and non-linear text, right? It is in the form of graphic. There might be the charts, maybe the bar chart, the pie chart, or line graph, for you to understand, to derive the data, the information provided in the non-linear text, right? And then there is also a linear text, which actually complements or also give you some ideas, or there might be some relation between the two texts. It means that maybe the non-linear or the linear actually support each other. It means that the combination of the non-linear and linear text actually gives you the ideas of the passage, right? So for text 1, it is true, false, not stated options, A, B, C, and then the answers are based on the factual information mentioned or stated in the text or in the stimuli, And there might be the statement on the writer's opinion, right? So you have to identify whether those answers or options are true, false, or is not stated in the text or stimuli. Okay, we move on to passage 1. This is only the overview of the reading paper, right? So we have passage 1 for question 8 to 14. There are also the questions on true, false, not stated, and also the combination of the other question of MPC, right? So there might be the skill of skimming and scanning, locating for the details and all. Passage 2, 3, 4, and 5 all are MPC question as well, with the options of A, B, C, or A, B, C, and D. Okay, now let us move on to the skill, the reading skill, which is quite important for you to master, for you to polish your skill, so that you will not have some problems when attempting the question. Okay, the first and the easiest, I would say that the easiest skill for reading is skimming, right? So skimming, it needs you to read quickly. It is the skill that needs you to read quickly and to derive the general idea out of the passage or out of a paragraph, right? So it's just skimming means to read quickly and then to get the general idea. So there might be the occurrences of selective reading. You might also do the selective reading in order to derive the main idea. Okay, so this is the sample of question that might actually test you on the skill of skimming. The first paragraph is about how indoor plants can. So these question actually ask the candidates or the readers to identify the main idea in first paragraph, right? The main idea of first paragraph. Skimming is not only to identify the general idea of the whole passage, it is also useful to identify the general idea of a particular paragraph. Okay, so normally the question will mention the number of paragraphs that you need to actually read and to derive the idea. Okay, the next skill is scanning, right? Like suggested by the term here, scanning, it means that also similarly to skimming, you have to also read quickly, right? It is the activity of reading quickly in order to identify the specific information, right? It is to identify the specific information. Okay, unlike what you do in skimming, scanning would be also selective, but for this skill, you need to only identify the specific information as needed, maybe in the question, right? So again, selective reading is applied, right, to locate only a particular piece of information as needed in the questions. Okay, so these two skills actually are correlated, right? So when you skim, actually you also scan, actually. When you scan, that also involve skimming. When you skimming, you also involve skimming. Okay, this might be the type of the possible questions actually that test you the skill on scanning, right? So like in these samples, one common source of carbon monoxide at home is from. So in order to derive the answer, you have to scan, right? You have to scan the passage or a particular paragraph in order to find out what is that one particular common source of carbon monoxide at home. So there might be the list, so you are going to figure out from the particular paragraph. Okay. The next is the mangrove swamp forest provide timber for charcoal. Is that true, false, or not stated? So you have to identify the keyword here. Maybe the word of charcoal, right? Or the word of mangrove swamp. right? So this is only the sample that actually applies the skill of scanning. Yeah? This is only the sample. There's no passages, but these are only the sample of questions. Okay, next skill is distinguishing main ideas from supporting details. Okay, you're going for this skill, you are to actually to differentiate. Yeah, the word distinguishing means to differentiate. Yeah, also means to find the differences. Okay, you have to also figure out the main ideas. Yeah, and then which one is the main idea, which one is the supporting details from maybe a paragraph, right? Okay, let's say in a paragraph, normally the main idea is also called topic sentence. Yeah, it can be found at the beginning of a paragraph, right? The main idea of a particular paragraph is called topic sentence, which can be found at the beginning of the paragraph, or maybe in the middle sometimes, right? Or at the end of the paragraph, when the writer actually explain, give example first, and then later topic sentence is maybe embedded there at the end. Yeah? Okay, supporting details can be the description. Yeah, the detail means the explanation of a particular topic sentence. You call it maybe point, right? Okay, the main idea in a particular paragraph. There might be the descriptions or the definitions, maybe the facts, right, included by the writer, the examples, right, in order to explain and clarify, and the reasons given by the writer in order to make the reader understand more. Okay, possible questions for that. Okay, question directly asked about the main idea, right? So the main idea of the passage is about, so this one is, what is the main idea of the whole passage? Or maybe the question asks you, what is the main idea of paragraph 3? Or what is the writer actually try to convey in paragraph 3, right? So that is the skill of identifying the main idea of a particular paragraph. Okay, the next sample, living donors donate part of their, with the limbs, liver, and heart. This one is to identify the supporting details, right? The skill of the questions for you to apply the skill of identifying the supporting details. Okay, let's move on to another higher level of reading skill. In fact, is more on language skill, which is paraphrasing, right? So this is quite higher level of language skill that need you to have such language ability in order to retell, right? You have to restate, let's say, or come up with the ideas or the meaning of the statements using your own form, using your own phrases or words, using your own sentences, in fact, right? So this actually to ease, to make things easy, right? To make you understand better. Okay, normally for reading, yeah, the questions always apply the skill of paraphrasing. When the questions actually use another form, another word, another phrases in when asking questions regarding on the certain skills, right? So beware of that. Make sure you have such skill of understanding the idea or the details in the passage, and then as it should be actually useful when applying or when attempting the question with such skill of paraphrasing, right? So in paraphrasing, the language ability is there when you have to really understand, yeah, and then try to actually figure out the answers in the other form, or in the answers actually using other word, right? But the meaning is still there. Yeah? So the sample of questions for For that skill of paraphrasing, the application of the skill of paraphrasing is here. Let's say the environment refugees are those refugees running away from. It means that you have to understand what is the, the phrase of environment refugees, right? So you can actually infer the answers from here, even though you don't read the passage. It is all about natural disaster, right? So it's all about natural disaster. And then you have to also understand the expression, some expressions in the passage that actually you have to find out the meaning, the meaning behind the expression mentioned. For example, here, you can count your ribs. The expression, you can count your ribs, can best be replaced with. So you must understand the word, you can count your ribs there, so that you are able to get the correct answer. So you imagine the situation when you can count your ribs. Ribs means the skeleton bones, right there. So you can count. What does it imply? Right, you actually can also infer the answers here. You can count your ribs. It means that you can see the ribs clearly. You can see the skeleton's bones clearly. So it might be something to do with, right, maybe starvation, right, or going hungry for such a long period of time. So it might be something to do with, right, lose a lot of weight, right? So you have to actually sometimes, you must actually have the ability to actually interpret, to translate the expressions that can actually best replace the expression mentioned in the question. Okay, let's move on to another skill. Another higher level of thinking skill, right? Also reading skill. So reading is such, analytical, critical skill that you need to possess. You must have such good reading skill that you have to, just now you have to paraphrase, you have to also make conclusion. So when you make conclusion here, when you draw the conclusion, it means that you form a judgment, you form your own opinion, or you come up with a decision, or you decide, or you make decision based on the information that you have read from the passage or from the text. And then another skill they need to have is to form logical reasoning is related to conclusion as well. When you also have to deduce, based on the information. Deduce is this is the term. This is the linguistic term for you to just to generally know, right? What is that reasoning? What is that deduction, right? So for when you forming logical reasoning, it is actually logical reasoning is the form of thinking which the statement and then the proposition is actually having some kind of relationship. So there are relationship between the statement, let's say, relationship between the ideas mentioned in the passage or in the text. So you have also come up with your own judgment and opinion, right? So deduction is also related to conclusion, right? So everything must be based on the information. So it is more on come up with your own opinion regarding on the ideas, right? Regarding on the matters being written or discussed, right? Okay, so the sample question that applies the skill of this drawing conclusion. Remember that the answer is not directly there. The answer is not directly mentioned in the passage. You have to come up with your own conclusion, with your reasonable, desirable conclusion, which actually contextually correct. Let's say the question of according to the writer. Actually, the writer actually doesn't mention, let's say, such idea, but you, according to what you have read in the passage, you come up with such conclusion, right? So, according to the writer, our education system does not train students to be whether bold, resourceful, or inquisitive. So, based on the passage, you should choose something which is actually relevant to the conclusion that you have made, right? Okay. Most students have, let's say here, most students have, it's not mentioned in the passage as well, you have to conclude, right? Based on your understanding towards the content of the passage, right? Let's say most students have maybe potential that is not fully developed. It's not that mentioned in that way, but you have to conclude. Okay. Next skill is making inferences, right? So another critical skill that you have to master, you have to polish, you have to sharpen the skill more on this, yeah. So for this level of reading, this is tertiary level of reading skill, you need to make inferences a lot, right? So when you infer, when you make inferences, it's actually the opinion or reasonable guess. Opinion or reasonable guess, a smart assumption, right? But everything should be based on the evidences or facts provided in the text. You cannot simply infer something's not mentioned there. Okay, so your inferences should be relevant, right? According to what is actually written in the passage. Okay, when you make inferences, when you infer, you will always refer to the facts that you have read, the opinions maybe by the writers, or the experiences shared by the writers, or you have such experiences as well, or you have the knowledge as well about that particular matter being discussed in the passage, right? Based on your own observation as well, right? And also the description, the clarification, the explanation mentioned by the writer. So when you make inferences, again, it's like making conclusion. The answer is not directly again written in the passage. So you have to come up with the idea, you have to come up with the assumption or some kind of smart guess, opinion based on the ideas mentioned in the passage. Okay, so the sample of question for this skill, normally the word deduce is used. The word infer is also used in the question to show that it means that you have to come up with your assumption. You have to come up with your own opinion regarding on the matter being asked. Let's say here, we can deduce that Adam's job is highly, whether risky, respectable, or responsible. Again, maybe the information about Adam's job is not directly mentioned in the passage, but you have to come up with the assumption based on what you have read, based on maybe the descriptions of Adam's job, that maybe Adam's job is highly risky, for example, or Adam's job is highly respectable, or Adam's job is highly responsible. So the answer is not directly mentioned, you have to infer. Okay. Now again, from the passage, we can infer that word of infer is used again there. It means that you have to come up with your own opinion. Let's say here, something to do with A, B, C, D. So you have to really read all the option A, B, C, D in order to get the answers correct. Okay. So when there is the word deduce, it means that you have to infer. Okay, you have to infer. Come up with your own assumption and opinion. Okay, let's move on. Summarizing. Another skill of summarizing, right, is just now the skill of making conclusion, and now it is the skill of summarizing. It is that similar in some aspect, but also different in some aspects, right? So when you summarize, you make the idea or the detail shorter, right? You shorten up. You actually try to reduce such expressions or statements that you only come up with the important idea, right? Or the main idea or the content of a statement, or let's say a sentence, right? So summarizing actually a brief and concise statement. That's it, right? So, but you should actually have the same original meaning in mind, right? So it is in the shorter form of expression, the shorter form of statement or sentences, implying the same original meaning, right? So normally you're going to restate, you're going to mention the idea or the sentences using another shorter form. Okay. Unlike what you do in making conclusion, right? When making conclusion needs you to make some deduction, right? Make some deduction. Deduction is not reduction. Yeah? Deduction means you have to come up with your own opinion and ideas, right? Summarizing, just shorten up, right? The expression and statement. Okay. Okay, the sample question might ask you directly about what or which of the following best summarizes paragraph 4, right? Which of the following best summarizes paragraph 4? Okay, so you're going to choose the answers, the only answer which actually summarizes paragraph 4, right? You should shorten the idea up, yeah? So everything should be in the shorter version. Instead of, let's say, in a particular paragraph, there are several sentences, right? So when you summarize, you make it several sentences into one particular sentence with the idea, right? That the writer tried to deliver in particular paragraph. Okay. Now, the best title for the passage would be, okay, when the question asks you about the title, means that you have to, summarize using one particular sentence, or might be shorter, maybe in the phrase form, right? The title, so make it short. So the title actually summarizes the content of the whole passage. Okay, so now it is the application of the summarizing can be seen in the two questions here. Okay, now another reading skill that you have already practiced a lot, maybe before in the previous level, right? In your SPM, in your PT3 or PMR level, maybe you have developed the skill of, hopefully you have developed the skill of identifying, deriving the meaning from the context. So for this level of reading skill, it is not to directly translate, right? It is not to directly translate, that you have to actually find out the meaning which is suitable with the context. With the context here means that what is being discussed, right? Is that you always understand that one particular English words normally delivers multiple meanings, right? So you should actually define the word given according to the context and what is being discussed, right? Which one is suitable, right, to replace or to define that given particular word. Okay. Now, normally you figure out the meaning of the word based on the given clues or information. Okay. You can find the clues before or after the word, or before or after the phrase, or before or after the expression. So you have to know the context, and then the context of the passage, and then make sure that you choose the answer which best replace the word. Okay, let's say, Okay, let's say the word here in the sample of question. Okay, the options given actually should be, one of the options given should be actually replace the word given here, the word inapt. Let's say the word inapt or inapt means, so the word inapt should be actually replaced contextually the meaning of incompetent, right? Inapt, incompetent, right? So you have to have such good vocabulary in order to answer or to apply this skill well. Yeah? Okay. Another word that you have to find out the meaning. Let's say here, Kim has been pining for her son to visit her. So you have to know what does that mean, right? The word pining means, what is that? Whether asking, whether appealing, or whether longing, right? So in this context, longing is the best answer, right? Longing means the strong desire, right? Longing means the strong desire for something, right? Let's say longing for a holiday, for example. You really want to go to the holiday in case, right? So pining may be another good vocabulary to replace with longing. Not that long, not that long. The length of something, it is here is longing, means such great desire for something. Okay, next skill, referencing. Okay, you have to make reference using word or phrase to replace nouns or pronouns, right? So in a sentence, normally nouns or pronouns are mentioned as the subjects, right? Or maybe mentioned as the object. So there would be the reference of those subjects or those nouns and pronouns in the incoming or before, or some certain expression. Let's say maybe you have to refer to the nouns or pronouns mentioned earlier. Normally there is the word they, we, both, us, right? Normally is used to replace the nouns or pronouns. So you have to identify what are they, what are we, what are both, what of none refers to, right? It means that you have to really know the subject used, the nouns and pronouns used, right? To identify or to know which is referred to. Okay, other than mention it before the statement, it is also mentioned later, right, in the statement. It's also referred later in the statement. Okay, in the sample of questions, okay, the question here use both. It means that you have to refer what is both, what is being discussed before, what is being mentioned before, right? So you have to identify what is both, right? So maybe question also might ask about what the word of be us, they, we, right? As for the reference. Okay, the next skill is to distinguishing facts from opinion, right? You have to know the differences. Which are the facts? Which are the opinion, right? So let's say the fact, normally the truth, right? Proven to be true, right? It is the fact. Maybe supported by the studies, supported by the surveys, supported by the research is done by the researchers, for example, right? The fact on maybe medical, right, or science and technology, right? Opinion normally is personal belief, right? there might be the feeling of evaluation and judgment, right? Opinion is normally not that true, right? So, okay, sample question might ask you about, according to the child expert, play is important in a child's early growth. So based on the text, you have to know what the child expert has mentioned, yeah, in the passage. Modern and expensive toys. So these more on opinion, right? Modern and expensive toys. Maybe the opinion by the writer, yeah. Maybe the opinion by the writer is about modern and expensive toy. Maybe waste of money or increase imagination, or maybe may not encourage creativity based on the passage. You should choose the answer based on the passage. Opinions, maybe the opinions from the writer. Okay, next is to identify the cause and effect. Yeah? You must have the ability to identify the reason or the activity or the action that gives some implication. Right? You also must have the ability to explain what will happen as a result of an action. It is the effect. Yeah? Because of cause, there are effects, right? So the effects happen because of the causes of the cause, right? So you must know such relationship. Okay. Sample question normally will not directly ask you about what is the impact of this and that, right? So it should be another way. Enhanced greenhouse effect is due to, right? So you must know what are the consequences of greenhouse effect, right? So choose based on what you have read in the passage. Okay, the full impact of rising greenhouse gases is, again, the effect because of something, right? Okay, reading critically to ascertain purpose, tone, and attitude. Okay, reading critically. Of course, for this level, you have to read critically, right? It is such, critical thinking skill that you have to apply for reading. To ascertain the purpose, to make certain of the purpose, the tone, and the attitude of the writer. So you have to again deduce, to come up with your opinion, to make some assumption about how the writer feels about the matter or issue presented and why. Right? You have to deduce again. So deduce means to form assumption, to form opinion. Okay, in order to determine or to make sure, to ensure what is the tone and attitude of the writer, you have to identify the tone of the ideas indicates by the writer's attitude. It's mentioned, it's not again directly mentioned, you have to deduce, you have to infer. Okay. Now, this is a sample of question that actually tests you on the skill of identifying the writer's attitude, feelings, and tone. The tone of the writer is one of whether cynicism, responsibility, or civic-mindedness. You must know the meaning of those tone. Cynicism. What do you understand about cynicism? Right, and then the writer was wary of the cultural program, whether supportive or skeptical or respectful. Right, so you must know the meaning of those expressions that shows the writer's tone and feeling, or maybe attitude. Okay, so you may consider these terms, right? For instances, I provide you with some terms. Let's say cynicism or cynics. Both are noun, right? So cynicism is the idea of being cynical, right? Cynical is the adjective. So when it's something to do with cynicism, it is the idea of having distrust. It is the idea of having distrust, right? Distrust. And how about skepticism here? Or skeptic as a noun, or the one who have such idea of skepticism is called something is skeptic, right? Skeptical is the adjective of someone who is skeptic, right? So here, a bit different, yeah, from being cynic. It is the feeling of doubt, maybe of the truth, or feeling of disbelief. Another useful expression or term is sarcasm, right? Or sarcastic as the adjective. So this one, when come up with the word sarcasm or sarcastic, it is something to do with humiliation, right? The expression that actually ridicule others' ideas maybe, or ridicule or humiliate others' ideas. Or criticism or criticism, or the critics. All these are judgment which point out fault or weaknesses. Pessimism, or pessimist, someone who is pessimist or pessimistic, is adjective for that, is always expect something worse. And optimism, right, is positive, the contradictor of being pessimist, right? Expectation that thing will be well. Okay, these are also the same notes for those terms that you have to pay attention on. Okay, predicting outcome, right? So it's another useful skill that you have to also again infer, you have to also deduce and guess and try to predict what happened at the end, what the writer actually tried to convey, what happened next, right? For example, okay, the question might ask you about learning in the future will be more, so, right? Based on the passage, you infer, you come up, you predict what would happen at the end, right? Innovation industry will likely lead to, okay, innovation industry will likely lead to, well, the expensive product, this one is, the word will likely needs you to guess, need you to predict what would happen in the future or later. Okay, again, another skill, discerning the organization of passage, right? Discerning means to figure out, right? To identify, to recognize how the writer actually organizes the passage, how the writer actually arrange the ideas, right, in the passage, right? You should understand how information is presented, whether it is grouped or it is ordered in sequence, yeah? So you can actually understand what the writer trying to convey, right? So a sample question might actually help you here, that you must know and understand the content, whether true cause and effect, right? Let's say the writer mentioned the cause and then he explains the effect later, or all the ideas are mentioned in the chronological sequence, everything is in order, or the writer actually compare and contrast the ideas, the two ideas or the two methods, let's say, compare and figure out the differences and then the similarities. And maybe the writer also provide examples, right? From the example, the writer may or might develop some explanations and the details. Okay, now we come to a session with apply, in which you may apply the skill we have learned. So here is sample of passage questions. Okay, so this is the passage for question 8 to 14 from the reading set, right? So, okay, for when you actually have your question paper in front of you, when you want to attempt the question, skimming and scanning is, these two are applied, right? So it is very important that you read quickly first, right? And then to derive the general idea of the passage as the whole, as the whole. And then read the questions. And then read the questions. Understand the question, read and understand the questions. Identify the keywords, right? Identify the cues, identify the clues that might help you when you again read and understand. When you read, you skim and scan again in order to answer all the questions. Put all the cues in mind. Put the cues in mind, right? So that you actually, that helps you to get better or correct answer, right? So the passage, you must know when you read, Okay, when you read, it's very important to know what is the main idea. What is the main idea of that passage, right? So, like in this sample, it is about learning a foreign language. Learning a foreign language, right? Is that useful or not, right? So it is up to the readers to actually decide whether it is important or not, yeah, to learn a foreign language, right? So the main idea is about learning a foreign language, specifically mentioned about Chinese language, right? It's mentioned about learning a foreign language, specifically Chinese, right? So let's say, let us do together. Let us try to understand together as the time runs out. Yeah, okay. So paragraph 1 is about the introduction of the reason, right? The reason why you should learn why learn a foreign language. Okay, it's mentioned about the second language, yeah, of yours, maybe, right? Not only just your native language, it's not only your mother tongue, that you actually should learn another foreign language, right? So, but in paragraph 1 mentioned that wherever you go, English is always the first, English is always spoken, right? Whether in America, Britain, right, even in Sweden, right, or in Spain, they speak English. They speak only English, right? So paragraph 2, okay, reasons, why learn language, right? Because of learning other language make you understand the language better, or learning also literature. Also, from when you learn language, you also learn maybe of course literature, and right, you learn also the culture, right? And then when you have another ability of speaking other language, you have actually easier for you to do business with the foreigners. Yeah? Okay, paragraph 3 is more on the option, that you have here, that is provided here about learning Mandarin, right? Learning Mandarin. Yeah? China's economy is growing, right? In every aspect, political aspect, of course, yeah, in economics, yeah. Okay. Paragraph 4, also one example, one example of the growth in Japan, where actually there is also suggestion that Japanese to become the world's third useful language, maybe, right? But it doesn't happen, right? Okay, paragraph 5. Why? There is the explanation in paragraph 4 is about put the brakes on Chinese, means that Japanese and the Chinese actually are unable to become the world's useful languages, right? So paragraph 5 mentioned about the Chinese writing system, right? It's quite difficult to master, right? Okay, required a lot of literacy in order to master Mandarin. Okay, paragraph 6. Also, a survey found that the skill in Chinese is declining. Because why? Fewer native speakers learn to produce the characters in traditional calligraphy. They can speak, but they cannot write that well. So, and then they don't really actually write that out. Everything is using the computer, right? Okay. So it's happened at the end that the writers actually give the opinions on that Chinese is very unlikely to become a true world language, right? This is the opinions of the writer. Okay, there might be some words that you maybe wonder, ponder. The word of compelling, cloud, virtually, mammoth, feet, bribes. Yeah, you can find this word from the passage. Yeah? So the meaning of compelling is there, the forcing. Virtually, something is in essence, it's not a fact, right? Cloud, another word of influence. Mammoth, as it is, as you know, mammoth, it means massive, like the mammoth, you know, very massive, large. The feat, notable achievement. Gripes, the complaints, right? Another word for complaints. Okay, so these are the questions based on the passage. Okay, okay, these are the questions that you might attempt. Okay. Okay, 8, asking about reading literature in its original language enriches cultural knowledge. Is that true, false, or not stated? To figure out which is true or which is a false, you know, so you have to always refer to the text. Yeah. False statement when it is mentioned in the passage, but the statement given in the question is false. While for not stated, normally something is not mentioned at all. Yeah? It's not mentioned at all in the passage. Okay. A good business relationship is maintained when both parties speak the same language. Is that true, false, or not stated? Most people learn a second language because of economic reason. Is that mentioned? Or is that true? Or is that false? Or it's not stated at all? Okay, paragraph number 11, paragraph 3 is mainly about. So this one is to derive the main idea of paragraph 3. Okay. And number 12, the writer mentioned Japan in paragraph 4 to make the point that, okay, why? Actually, the writer mentioned Japan. So you have to infer why, right? So 13, the main reason why Mandarin is unlikely to grow in its importance is, okay, you have to, here is to, again, yeah, locating the details and figure out the answers. In the last paragraph, the writer concludes that, so this is the writer's opinion and conclusion about maybe the Chinese language, right? Okay, you may try this out, yeah, the practices, yeah, later. These are suggested answers. Okay, you may try out all the practices, all the questions, yeah, from this pautan, right? From this link, right? Okay, you have to you may try, you must try that out. Okay. Okay. Okay, you may try out these questions. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for spending your time with me during this day, this magnificent day. Have a nice day. Have a magnificent day. Good luck for your Muet, especially for Muet reading. See you again sometimes, maybe later. Have a nice day. Thank you. See you again.